Welcome to the Asia Ghost Stories channel. Here, we preserve and share spine-chilling and mysterious ghost stories. Today, we will uncover a terrifying ghost story from Thailand, revolving around a haunting curse of black magic, vengeful spirits, and the journey of a young man named Niren as he confronts supernatural forces. Step into the enigmatic world of the tale, the curse of Thai amulets, and feel the icy breath of darkness. The Bangkok sky in the scorching heat of May, especially during the evening, always carries a suffocating sense of heaviness. The city is filled with bustling noises, rushing traffic, street vendors shouting their wares, but amidst this vibrant metropolis, there are shadowy corners no one dares to speak of. These are places where eerie tales, whispers of black magic, and restless spirits are passed down through generations. Niren's story began when he moved into a rented apartment in a relatively isolated area near an old night market. The apartment wasn't particularly luxurious, but for a young man fresh out of university and starting his career, it was a practical choice. Everything seemed normal at first, but something felt off right from the beginning. Niren was not someone easily frightened or prone to believing ghost stories. Yet, the moment he stepped into the apartment, an unshakable chill crept into his mind. The small unit on the third floor had a window overlooking the lively night market below, but Niren couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Especially at night, under the dim glow of streetlights seeping through the window, everything in the apartment seemed to blur, as if shrouded in an invisible darkness. During the first few nights, Niren dismissed his unease as exhaustion from long hours at work. But then, strange things began happening. While trying to sleep, he occasionally heard footsteps echoing in the hallway and faint whispers, as though someone was having a conversation he couldn't quite understand. The eerie sounds and strange occurrences made restful sleep impossible. One night, while sitting in the living room, Niren noticed something peculiar. A shadowy shape seemed to move across the floor. He sat frozen, daring only to observe it from the corner of his eye. When he approached the area, the shadow vanished. Growing anxious, Niren convinced himself that it must have been his imagination. The next morning, as Niren left his apartment, he encountered an elderly woman who had lived in the building for years. She looked at him with a skeptical, knowing gaze. "You're the new tenant on the third floor, aren't you?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with warning. "Be careful with that place. There's a story about the man who lived there before you." He heard footsteps too, saw strange shadows. But he couldn't escape. A shiver ran down Niren's spine. "What story?" he asked, trying to remain calm. The woman looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. "You've never heard of cursed Thai amulets, have you? Someone used black magic in that apartment. The previous tenant was cursed, tied to the spirit of someone he wronged in the past. And that spirit has never found peace." From that moment on, Niren felt the weight of a sinister presence looming over his apartment. The strange occurrences intensified. He started seeing fleeting shadows in the mirrors, sometimes heard an unfamiliar voice calling his name from the dark corners of the room. But the most terrifying moment came late one night, when Niren awoke to find a figure standing by his bed. Its eyes glowed red, staring directly at him, leaving him paralyzed. And just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure dissolved into the air. Niren was overcome with fear. The apartment felt less like a home and more like a haunting trap. The signs were too vivid to dismiss as mere nightmares. It seemed as though some force was toying with him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But who was behind it all? Why him? The answers to these questions would soon unravel, forcing Niren to confront a power beyond anything he had ever imagined. As the questions plagued his mind, Niren began to realize this wasn't merely a ghost story. It was a curse, a sinister force clinging to him. To escape its grip, he would have to uncover the secrets hidden in the shadows. But the deeper he delved, the more horrifying truths he uncovered. If Niren didn't act soon, he would become the next victim of the cursed amulet, forever trapped in its haunting grasp. From the moment the old woman mentioned the cursed amulet, Niren felt his mind reeling. How could an ordinary apartment harbor such restless spirits? And why had he been dragged into this deadly game? A suffocating dread weighed on him, rendering everything bleak and incomprehensible. All day, Niren tried to shake off the old woman's words, but the darkness clinging to the apartment wouldn't release him. The strange noises in the hallway were no longer just oddities, they felt intentional. Since moving in, he had failed to find any logical explanation for the unsettling events. Determined to uncover the truth, he began searching through old documents, hoping to find clues about the apartment's history and its previous tenants. Under a dusty carpet in the bedroom, Niren stumbled upon a weathered notebook. Inside, he found the name Saria, a former tenant. The journal detailed Saria's experiences in the apartment, the footsteps in the night, fleeting figures in the mirrors, and hauntingly vivid dreams. The final entry sent chills down Niren's spine. I can't escape. If anyone reads this, please set me free. Niren approached the building manager to learn more about Saria. The manager hesitated before replying, you should ask the old woman nearby. She knows more about it. But let me warn you, some things are best left alone. The manager's warning only fueled Niren's curiosity. He returned to the elderly woman, now desperate for answers. After much hesitation, she finally opened up. Saria, she began, her voice heavy with sadness. He was a victim of black magic, of cursed amulets. There was a woman at the night market who used dark magic against him. She was no ordinary person, she was a sorceress who manipulated spirits and bound them to her will. As Niren listened, the weight of the mystery bore down on him. He couldn't comprehend the suffering of a spirit bound by such a curse. Determined to uncover the truth, Niren braced himself for the battle ahead. Niren couldn't believe what he was hearing. His apartment, the place he lived in, had become the prison of a cursed spirit, and every strange occurrence seemed tied to a dark spell. He felt like prey being hunted. That night, despite his fear, Niren decided not to leave. He needed to confront whatever was happening. He prepared the necessary items, a candle, a bowl of water, and a protective charm the elderly woman had given him. If you want to set the spirit free, she had told him, you must face what lies beyond the door. As night fell, Niren lit the candle and began chanting the incantations the woman had taught him. But as soon as he started, the lights in the apartment flickered, and a chilling gust of wind blew out the candle. Footsteps echoed from the hallway, and Niren felt an icy shiver run down his spine. He turned around and saw the figure of a man standing at the doorway, his glowing red eyes filled with anguish. Free me, the figure's voice bellowed, resonating in the stillness. Free me, or I'll drag you into the darkness. Niren couldn't move, his feet were rooted to the floor. The spirit of Saria stood before him, and he realized that the only way to break this curse was to help the tormented soul find peace. As Saria's pleas grew louder and more desperate, Niren felt himself being pulled into a nightmarish void. The spirit's heavy breaths filled the room, suffocating him in terror. He suddenly remembered the old woman's words, the spell could trap a soul forever, but breaking it can set the spirit free. In a moment of panic, Niren grabbed the old photograph of Saria he had found in the journal. He whispered a prayer as his hands trembled. At that moment, Saria's spirit let out a furious cry, filling the room with a bone-chilling darkness. But Niren knew he couldn't stop now. He moved toward the spirit, clutching the photo tightly, and shouted the final chant with all his might. A brilliant light erupted, cutting through the darkness, and the spirit of Saria vanished. His final scream echoed briefly before everything fell silent. Even though Saria's spirit had found peace, Nairan couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. The fear and tension lingered, gripping him even in the quiet of the now calm apartment. He sat on his bed, staring out the window at the faint glow of streetlights. Though the nightmare had ended, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was still watching him. He recalled Saria's glowing, anguished eyes and his last chilling words, "Free me, or I'll drag you into the darkness." The warning haunted Nairan, even though Saria's spirit was gone. Why, then, did he still feel so uneasy? Days passed, and Nairan returned to his daily routine. There were no more apparitions or whispers, yet an underlying sense of dread remained. Everything seemed normal on the surface, but something still didn't feel right. He remembered the old woman's cautionary words, "Some things are better left unknown." Nairan couldn't ignore her warning. Was Saria truly free? Or was this just one chapter in a larger, more sinister story? One evening, while working on his laptop in the living room, Nairan received a call from an unknown number. His stomach churned with unease, but he decided to answer. "Hello?" he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Hello, this is Jirawat," the voice on the other end said, deep and ominous. "I'm an old friend of Saria. I know you're staying in his apartment." The voice felt close, unnervingly close, carrying an air of dark mystery. "Who are you? How do you know me?" Nairan asked, his apprehension growing. "Don't ask questions. I know you're in trouble. Saria's death wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a new nightmare. You can't escape." Nairan froze, his body stiff with fear. Before he could ask anything else, the call abruptly ended. He stared at his phone, the beeping tone echoing in his mind like a haunting reminder. After that call, the strange occurrences returned. Every night, Nairan heard footsteps in the hallway, the creak of windows opening without reason. At first, he thought he was losing his mind, but these events were too real to dismiss as hallucinations. Desperation drove him to seek out Jirawat, hoping to uncover more about Saria's past. Nairan met Jirawat at a small cafe where he worked. The middle-aged man had deep, weary eyes, as if burdened by the weight of too many secrets. He studied Nairan with a scrutinizing gaze before finally speaking. "You've seen them, haven't you?" Jirawat asked in a gravelly voice. "The shadows, the whispers in the night. It's all because of the cursed spell. But that's only part of the story." "Cursed spell?" Nairan echoed, stunned. "But Saria was freed, wasn't he?" Jirawat smirked, but it was a bitter, joyless expression. "Freed? No, you don't understand. Breaking the curse isn't that simple. What you think is freedom might just be another trap. If you didn't do it correctly, the darkness will come for you instead." A chill ran through Nairan as he listened. "Then what about me? I followed the old woman's instructions. Why am I still haunted?" Jirawat's gaze softened with pity. "Because the curse placed on Saria wasn't an ordinary one. This spell had immense power. When Saria died, his soul was bound to it. And now, you've become the next target. Saria's spirit won't rest until the person who cast the spell, Somjai, is punished." Jirawat explained that Somjai, a witch who specialized in dark magic, was still alive and living near the old night market. "Somjai didn't just curse Saria," he continued, "she can control spirits. She won't let anyone destroy her work. If you don't confront her, the cursed spirits will continue to haunt you." Determined, Nairan returned to his apartment. He knew the battle wasn't over, it was just beginning. He ventured into the night market, where Saria had once crossed paths with Somjai. Among the lively stalls and crowded alleys, an unshakable sense of dread hung in the air. In a dimly lit corner of the market, Niren found Somjai sitting among strange and eerie artifacts. Her cold eyes stared directly into his soul, devoid of emotion. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "I've come to end this," Niren said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. "You must pay for everything you've done." Somjai sneered, but there was a cruel, sinister edge to her smile. "You think you can defeat me? You know nothing about cursed amulets. You're just a pawn in my game." As soon as Somjai finished speaking, she began chanting an incantation, her voice growing sharper with every word. The air around Niren grew heavy, and he felt an invisible force pushing him down. But just as Somjai was about to complete her spell, Niren closed his eyes and remembered Jirawat's words, "Curses only have power if you believe in them." He took a deep breath, summoning strength from within. When he opened his eyes, he felt the protective presence of Suriya's spirit. A blinding light surrounded Niren, forcing Somjai to stagger backward. "This cannot be," she whispered, but before she could react further, a powerful burst of light erupted from Niren, obliterating every curse and charm she had cast. Somjai screamed in agony, and her spirit disintegrated into the air. Niren stood there, panting, his heart racing but filled with a profound sense of victory. He knew the battle with the cursed amulets had ended, but the experiences had forever changed him. He hadn't just faced tormented spirits, he had confronted his own deepest fears. As time passed, Niren's life gradually returned to normal. He worked diligently, and his apartment, once a haunting ground, became a peaceful sanctuary. There were no more eerie sounds or wandering shadows, just tranquility. Yet, Niren occasionally thought of Suriya, the kind old woman, and Jirawat, the enigmatic man who had guided him. He remained in touch with Jirawat, and they often met to share conversations about life and the mysteries they had encountered. One afternoon, while having coffee with Jirawat, Niren suddenly asked, "Jirawat, you knew about Somjai from the start, didn't you? How did you learn about Suriya and the curse of the amulets?" Jirawat's eyes darkened with a hint of sadness. "Suriya's story is much like my own," he said slowly. "I was also one of Somjai's victims. Many years ago, I loved her, but then I discovered her true nature, a cruel, vengeful woman. When I tried to leave her, she cursed me with her dark magic. I was luckier than Suriya. I escaped the curse, but the cost was enormous." Jirawat recounted the torment of his past, how Somjai manipulated and controlled him, robbing him of his family, friends, and career. He lived in constant fear and despair until he met a spiritual mentor who helped him break free. "Since then, I've dedicated my life to helping those haunted by cursed amulets," Jirawat said. "I don't want anyone to endure what I went through." Niren listened to Jirawat's story with deep admiration. He understood why Jirawat had appeared at just the right moment to help him, and why he had warned Niren of the dangers of the amulets. "What about Somjai?" Niren asked. "Where did she learn all of this?" Jirawat sighed. "Somjai is the descendant of a lineage deeply rooted in dark magic. They believed these amulets were a source of power to achieve their desires. But they were wrong. The curses only bring suffering and destruction. Somjai went too far, and she paid the price for her actions." Jirawat's story gave Niren a clearer understanding of the spiritual world, of mysteries that defied scientific explanation. He realized that beyond the tangible reality he lived in, there was another realm, invisible yet powerful. And sometimes, these worlds intertwined, creating extraordinary stories and unforgettable experiences. After their conversation, Niren felt he had grown profoundly. He no longer feared the unknown. Instead, he felt a burning curiosity to explore and understand. He began reading books about spirituality, folklore, and the enigmatic tales of Thailand. He wanted to delve deeper into his country's culture and history, uncovering the secrets hidden behind ancient temples and dense forests. One day, Niren decided to revisit the night market where he had confronted Somjai. The market was as lively and bustling as ever, but the oppressive gloom that had once hung over it was gone. He wandered among the stalls, observing the vibrant array of goods, from clothes to souvenirs to the tantalizing aroma of street food. He felt an inexplicable connection to the place, as though he belonged there. As he strolled, Niren noticed an elderly woman selling herbal remedies in a quiet corner of the market. Her kind and gentle face radiated warmth, and her eyes carried an inviting kindness. Drawn to her presence, Niren approached. "Hello, ma'am," Niren greeted politely. The woman smiled warmly. "Hello, young man. What are you looking for?" I'm not sure," Niren admitted, hesitating. "I just felt drawn to your stall." The woman chuckled softly. "Well, that's fate, then. Would you like me to read your fortune?" Surprised but intrigued, Niren nodded. The woman studied his palm, then looked deep into his eyes. "You've been through so much," she said gently. "But you've overcome it all. You have a kind heart, and you'll do great things in your life." Her words filled Niren with a sense of warmth and reassurance. He felt as though he had found not just a confidant, but a mentor. They talked for a long time before Niren eventually bid her farewell. As he walked away, the woman called out, "Remember, we can overcome any challenge as long as we have faith and courage." Niren smiled, nodding as he continued on his way. He knew that life still held many challenges ahead, but he was ready to face them all. He had discovered his inner strength, and he knew he would never walk his path alone. Though the story of the cursed amulets had come to an end, Niren's journey continued, filled with new experiences, lessons, and people. No matter what lay ahead, he was determined to find light within the darkness. Thank you for taking the time to follow the story, The Curse of Thai Amulets, on the Asia Ghost Stories channel. We hope it brought you moments of suspense and fascination. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like to show your support, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next spine-tingling ghost stories, and share to spread these captivating tales with your friends. See you in the next video with more mysterious stories.